anytime I've been interviewed and they're like, what's your best advice for in-house designers or for this person or for best advice for logo designers? And always in the mix is make every project your best project. And people say that all the time, but I really it's like push all that other stuff aside and let's focus right here, right now on this and make this the best damn thing that people are going to know me for. And that like, when I die and I'm rotting in the grave, it would be so cool to have like, just like a couple of things you're like, even if it's like a side note in a history of graphic design, something where there's like, hey, look at that ESPN type you did, or whatever it is, you know.
The Perspective Podcast is fuel for your mind and creative grind. Each week, we break down the art of healthy hustling, overcoming the inner critic, and growing your creative business. Welcome, everyone, to the Perspective Podcast. We got Allan Peters of Peters Design Co. on the show today. Welcome. How have you been? You know, we kind of touched on that, but let's like officially call this good to go.
Yes. How have I been? Well, the last couple of years have been a little crazy. Obviously, you probably touch on that with everybody. You read so many articles about people dealing with COVID and how it's affecting them, whether it's, overall happiness and mental health, all these things, being at home. There's so many people that are used to, like yourself, used to being around people. A lot of my buds that I still know from Target, man, they've worked at home now for a year, and a lot of them are pulling their hair out. Like this is crazy. Like I love home time, but this is a lot of home time.
Right.
And I've been doing this now I've been home now for a long time. I do like being at home. I like being with the family. I like the balance. I like being able to go have lunch with my kids. Dude, yesterday my little guy, I've been bribing him with ice cream to teach him how to ride his bike. So like all of us could be on two-wheelers because I have three boys and the oldest two are riding bikes. And the youngest guy, he's been riding a Strider since he was 3 and he's 5 this year. And I was like, this is the year, dude. And he's just like, I don't know. I was like, we'll go for ice cream. He's like, all right. And then, I told all the brothers too, I was like, we get everybody gets ice cream. So encourage them. And they're like, come on, Josh, you can do it.
I'm learning. That's a parent hack right there. I'm learning from my son. I'm trying to get this kid to stop pooping his pants right now.
Hey, man.
Body training.
Oh, dude.
Or a new car, Hot Wheels.
Yeah. Well, you're a designer, you're a letterer guy. I made for potty training, I made like a sweet little calendar where you had to make it a certain amount of days and you got stickers on each day that were, my kids are into Disney cars. And so they're like, it was like McQueen themed. And I had I designed the whole top and drew it all, hand lettered it and, made it super cool.
Okay.
And so he had something on the wall and every day he made it through the day without going to the bathroom as pants. He got to put a sticker on there and he had to get to I think after every certain amount, he got some sort of reward and it worked, it worked with all the kids.
Genius.
And because it was special and they had that cool thing that daddy put some time into and gave them some extra attention that was based on something they really liked, dude, it made all the difference. And all three of my kids, kids learn when they're ready to learn, but it helps. You got to encourage them a little bit.
I like that. So for those who may not know about you, can you give us just a brief Wikipedia page summary about yourself? And we're just going to dive deep.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Allan Peters. I'm a graphic designer. I've been designing now for over 20 years. Graduated from high school in '98. So I guess, yeah. So yeah, in some way, shape or form, been graphic designing for a long time. And I started my career, I just really, I'll make this super fast. I worked at a lot of small shops. I worked at small design firms, boutique shops. I worked at a big marketing place that did loyalty branding. I worked at a huge advertising agency. BBDO was a big global advertising agency, did commercials and art direction and tried the advertising side of things. And then I went and worked at Target. After that, I worked in-house. So, I kind of tried all. It was design, advertising, marketing, and then in-house, and where I was kind of using all those different skills. So when I went through all those, I learned from each different place. How do they do this? How do they charge? How do they go about this? And I slowly started taking on little projects here and there and here and there. Got a laptop when I worked at Target, just because I was on the bus a lot. I moved out to a suburb and it took 45 minutes each way to get to and from work. And so I started taking on little freelance projects. And before you know it, I was making more money on the bus than I was making at work. And
It was a
my
side
wife,
hustle.
yeah, exactly. And you talk about side hustles. I mean, that was it. I was, a lot of people are like, they jump out of school and they're just like, they're like right into it and they're taking on freelance clients and doing this. I was like the opposite. I was like the pig out of the three pigs, that wanted to build the brick house. I was like, I want to have my clients set up. I want to know exactly what I'm doing. I want to be super organized. I want to have tons of experience. I want to be able to say like, look at this branding I did for Target, or look at this huge television campaign I did. You can trust me. And so I wanted all my ducks in a row before I went out there. And so I did that. And I left Target back in 2015. And I've been running full-time Peter's Design Company, and I work out of my house. It's supposed to be Wikipedia. Gosh, I'm like eight
Dude,
minutes into this. I'm
you're
sorry.
dropping so many dimes in here. I'm gonna like distill here in a second.
um, anyhow, the work people were contacting me for and wanting from me was the branding and logo design. Like, the more and more, and I had done advertising, I had done all these other things, but man, people just really liked my style of logo design. And at first it was because I was doing a lot of badges and crests. But I always really focused on the thing that made them a little bit different is it wasn't just the aesthetic. I was really coming up with solid, unique marks that could be trademarked, that could be ownable. So when you had to put that thing in a little social avatar and you couldn't put a badge in there and it had to be a symbol, that symbol was unique and it just stood
Scalable.
scalable, stood the test of time, looking at the classics from the past, those like logo books from the 50s and 70s and stuff like that, all those like beautiful black and white marks, all that Paul Rand, Saul Bass goodness. I'm looking at those guys and trying to stand on the shoulders of giants, trying to learn from them and not replicate, but get inspired and create work that's going to be awesome 50 years from now, like an Eames chair is, where it's like, yeah, that was designed a long time ago, but man, it is still comfortable, still beautiful, still looks as modern as it ever looked, and it will 50 years from now too. So that's the kind of work I focus on now. And sometimes I get tech clients where there's like, they want the sans serif clean mark, setup. And sometimes people come to me and they're like, man, Alan, I want the 30-word super complex badge.
Give me that negative space.
Oh yeah,
Concept.
negative space. So I get all types of things. Like sometimes it's clothing lines where they want like a whole bunch of graphics. I've done a lot of clothing recently, but I've done it all, man. I've designed Zambonis, I've designed huge festivals. Whatever you need me for. If you're out there and you're like, hey, should I hire this guy? You should.
Sales pitch. We got the Wikipedia page sales pitch. So I have to just extract all these little gems that you tucked away in here that I don't think people may have caught right away. So I'm big on the slow and steady grind here. Patience, doing things the right way, playing the long-term game, projecting and pursuing a bigger picture. That's you with this whole thing. You didn't just get out of school. I'm like, I want to have my own personal brand. I want to do freelance big time and have my own merch line. It's like you played the game. You got the experience. You built the trust. You built the name around what you did. You built the portfolio. You took initiative. You built a side hustle on commutes, like that's dedication. That means you're efficient. That shows intent. And then over time, you really focused on the craft. You studied the greats, but you paved your own way and you're doing things your own way as well. Leveraging success leaves clues behind, but then it's like, how can we put our own unique thumbprint on it, which you have your own shop, you have your own merch, you have your Instagram game, your content creation, your personal brand. I'm like, dude, everything you do here is like the epitome of what I want to teach through this platform. It's like slow and steady grind, take your craft seriously, dedicate yourself to it, and then like focus on community, which I think there's going to be a big element of that today. Like you get deep in the community. People know you because you show your face out there. You don't always just hide behind that dope little PD mark that you got going on in your hat right now. So leading into the kind of today's topic, I was scheming and dreaming behind you scene, and I just wanted to give you some mad props for this because this episode topic today was completely inspired by something I'd been noticing with your Instagram account. And this is going on, oh my gosh, I feel like maybe back in December maybe even late November is when you just started continually showing up in my feed. Like Allan Peters was always in my feed. And then the next thing I noticed is that you were always posting new milestone custom number monograms.
Yeah.
So like you found something that really worked well for you. And I feel like I took notice of that explosive growth along with the value injecting your critical work. So I keep talking here, but I was hoping we could dive a little bit deeper on the subject and maybe bake in some evergreen tips and some universal tips that'll
Yeah.
help listeners grow their online presence, like elevate their presentation game and just bake more value into what they create and share with the world.
Hmm.
You down?
Absolutely. I'm down.
Maybe it's a little
Let's
bit
do
different than what you've
this.
been doing on other podcasts, but man, I felt like and then I think you had an Instagram TV video. I'm like, this is exactly what I wanted to talk about. So you already
Mhm.
like prepared and rehearsed.
Cool. I even, since then I was almost thinking about making a part two. I've got notes for part two of that. And I'm like, well, I could just save that for Scotty and we'll do it. We'll do a part two here. So I got a bunch of stuff that I shared on the IGTV video. I've got a lot more stuff because I've been thinking about it more because Instagram, you can kind of look to some good people to watch are like those guys that are guys and gals that do those like Instagram blogs where it's just they're not even posting their own work. It's always somebody else's work. But the ones that do it right, who have like 1 million followers, like Logo Inspirations and like guys like that,
The
um,
curating pros.
yeah, it's well curated, but they're playing the Instagram game. There's all sorts of little tricks, and you can see it like by following them, how are they curating things, clustering things, like is it a collection of different things? Like seeing how they're doing their stories, how they're doing interviews and things like that. There's a reason why they have that many Instagram followers, especially like, dude, they're not even posting their own stuff. They're posting other people's stuff, and they're able to elevate this. And I think there's a lot there. I'm going to start with a little story. So uh, way back before Instagram, I started a blogger blog, like blogger.com. I don't even know if
Yeah.
you
The
remember that
OG
one. It was like
days.
one of the
Yeah.
early ones. I don't know if
Yep.
people still use that, but I had a blogger account and I was working at BBDO at the time. And I was posting some news and stuff because there wasn't any, like, there was no local advertising or design news source. So I was posting other people's things that I thought were interesting. And I was trying to learn from people around me and that I thought were doing great stuff. And just basically it's similar to what I post now, except for but less, company focused and more just kind of what those guys are doing with those logo blogs. Yeah, I was posting like, look at this awesome work that just got in CA that this agency is doing. Look at the stuff this firm's doing. But I had some people follow, but not a lot of people. And then I was like, I have it's stupid but like a clever little idea, and I did like a best advertising agency in Minneapolis poll, and then a design one, and then an interactive one. And I did all three of them, and I did them one after the other. And then I put all the lead agencies on the list. It's so dumb. And then I emailed the creative directors at each of the different agencies. I was like, oh man, look, this person got way more votes than you guys got. You guys, let that go down. I got them all heated, and they all started
Stirring the pot.
they were all tweeting about it. I think Twitter, because Twitter was still around that, but I mean, I don't think Instagram was even around at the time. But any way they could get out, sending emails to all their clients and stuff like that, like, you have to come vote for me on this stupid
So your
blogger
traffic
site.
was bananas on this.
It was crazy, but I was playing the game. And after that, all of a sudden, so I got a lump of traffic. But after that, a lot of people kept coming back when they saw like what else was there. And so after that, all of a sudden I had a following, and I was able to, continue, just like normally, but just there was more engagement then and more shareability. And my whole thing with that, with the blogger site, was post a lot of other people's work, but when I have a new project, we're like, hey, look what this thing I did too, cool thing by all these other people, but a little bit of me mixed in, and trying to put myself in the same category as all these awesome projects and all these award-winning projects and stuff like that. So people would start to, building my brand up, so that people would think, hey, this guy's worth listening to, and he does work that's quality, right? And the whole time I think every designer out there is researching and looking at other people's work anyways. And so I was just sharing what I was learning, just by studying other people's stuff. So, okay. so the reason I tell that story is because there's all sorts of little things you can do like that, where you're where you can do little tricks to bring people in. I just read my kids. I love reading out loud to my boys. And last night I was reading this. I'm not sure if you're familiar. He's this classic author, Robert McCloskey, did like Make Way for Ducklings and Blueberries for Sale and all these. But there was one story in this collection that was called. It was Homer Price, the Donut Machine, and Homer Price, he's this kid, and his uncle Ulysses buys all these gadgets for his little grocery, or not like grocery. It's like a diner, and he bought this cool donut machine that just like makes donuts automatically, like you'd see at the state fair or something like that. And he goes to Uncle Ulysses. He's hanging out there, and the Uncle Ulysses likes to go just chill next door with his buddies, like the sheriff and other people in town, play pinochle and totally ignore his shop. And that's why he buys the automatic stuff, so he doesn't have to do anything there. And his wife gives him a hard time about it all the time. And so he's off next. He's like, hey, Homer, can you make some batter and make some donuts? I'm going next door. I have some important stuff I need to go talk to the sheriff and some other guys about. So he goes next door. Homer puts in the last two pieces on the new machine incorrectly. And then this lady shows up, starts mixing up some donut batter. She's like, here, I have this great recipe. This rich lady shows up, and she mistakenly drops her diamond bracelet into the batter, right? And so the machine starts going and makes all these donuts, just like thousands of donuts. There's a whole counters full of donuts. There's donuts on the shelf. There's donuts everywhere. And people are watching from outside, but nobody's coming in. There's no sale being made. They're just like looking. They're like, that's interesting. Look at all those donuts. How is Ulysses ever going to sell all those donuts? And Ulysses finally comes back and he's like, oh my gosh, what happened? He's like, I couldn't turn it off. It's I don't know. And so anyways, what they end up doing, they find out, the lady comes back, says, oh, I lost this diamond bracelet. They realize it got in the batter and that it's in one of those donuts. Then they advertise around town with like a dude with a sandwich board on the front and back that says like, hey, if you find the donut with the diamond bracelet in it, there's $100 reward. All of a sudden they sell all the donuts, like thousands of donuts. And that's the same kind of thing. It's like, how can you add value? How can you get people to your Instagram account that's interesting? Like, like that would be like a sweepstakes, like something where you're giving something away, a new poster or a new this or new that, like what is that value?
A reason to care.
Yeah, a reason to care. And so I had on this list, dude, I did have something about value. It's like, how can you add value? Oh man, I don't even know where I put that. And it could be so the best way, like advertising, reading a book on, is like to give somebody something for free, just a straight up gift. In the IGTV video, I mentioned Starbucks. Like one of their best campaigns they ever did was it was 1 year, if you voted, you got a free cup of coffee if you had the I voted sticker on. They ran one ad in the New York Times, and that was it. And that was the only advertising budget that they spent, and it was probably their most successful campaign of the year, and drove tons of people to the store to get, because it costs a lot of money. Their advertising money was spent on the free coffee, but it built up that positive vibes and for that brand. So when people thought Starbucks, it's not just a logo you think of, it's all the things that go along with it. So, if you're being nice and giving away free coffee and encouraging democracy and all that good stuff, then that's a great thing, So that's the number one thing you can do. And then it kind of trickles down from there, maybe the value is something that's less tangible. It's a tip, like some advice. You give tips all the time. I know your podcast is all about advice. People are coming here because they want to learn, and they're getting some free advice, some knowledge. That's great. Eye candy, just like pretty things, things that make people's life easier. So if you can
could you do me a favor and give an example of how you execute? What are you giving in terms of the first route? Like, what are you giving away? What's like a tip that you've been doing recently?
Sure.
Like, I can answer this for you. And then the eye candy, that's self-explanatory, but how do you execute it just so people have something tangible of how you're growing your Instagram? Because to flex real quick, you've grown by how much?
No, I don't know. A lot.
I remember seeing 40,000 milestone post, and now it's like at 61K. So over 10K.
In the last year, about 20K.
Last year, about 20K, but in like the last couple months, 10K. So that's where this is stemming from. You've found something that worked for you, but again, there's these principles that other people can leverage too. So going back to the first example real quick, just to like giving something away, what's something that Have you leveraged this example at all, or is this just something you've seen someone else execute within
You
their
know,
show?
I've done a little bit of the sweepstakes things, but I haven't leaned heavy into that. I really should with the shop. You know, I really should start giving some
Speaking
merch
of, I need
away.
to get some swag from you. I was just geeking out over your shop here,
Well,
but that's planting a
maybe you could
seed.
win it on the Instagram.
I'll win. I like to win things. Okay, so so there's an idea. You could potentially give a
Right,
hat or a T-shirt or something away from your
right.
shop.
Yeah, and I have done a couple of sweepstakes where I've given things away. One was you know, like tickets for a talk I was doing. Another one was I gave away. Gosh, I can't remember what it was. It was I think it was some prints or something like that. And this was a while ago. This was back when I was at like 20,000. I think it was when I hit 20,000. Um, but I haven't done a lot of that. You know, to do that properly, you know, there's you should like really look up like somebody who's done a proper sweepstakes, look at how they're doing it, look at the verbiage they're using, look at how they post, like if they post it like multiple times a day, you know, and they put in their stories, and how they lead up to it, you know, like saying like, oh, here it's coming up, and then it's like, oh, and then here it is,
You're
here's
building
the
some
one
hype.
day.
It's like a little
Yeah,
campaign.
yeah, it
Yep.
totally is, and it requires time and a lot of energy.
What about like tips? What kind of tips have you been giving away then?
I so
Your IGTV one recently is a
one
huge one.
that I had performed really well that was helpful for me was my wrist was hurting a lot from using a Magic Mouse, like the default Mac mouse that kind of, yes, that one, right, has the sharp edges, and when you put your arm like this, your bones are actually twisted, and after just like clicking away for years and years and years, my wrist was just like, it was just like, man, this sucks. And it hurt really bad. And my ma was a hairdresser. She cut hair, and she always had really bad carpal tunnel from clipping away. And I'm like, God, there's gotta be a better way. There's gotta be, you know, smarter things, you know. And I always wanted to try Wacom. So I just asked, I was like, first I researched it. I was like, what are the different options? So the one is doing like a trackpad thing, like you
Mhm.
have on your laptop. So you can use that. Another is you can use Wacom. Another is you can go with a vertical mouse like this, which
Ooh.
functions the same, except for it doesn't twist your bones. I mean, this one has some extra buttons on it, and it's really awesome. But
What brand is that?
this one is Evolent, or like Eve.
I'm just gonna toss it in show notes is why for
Oh,
myself.
yeah.
Evelyn,
It
okay.
that was way out of focus. Sorry.
I got it. I got it.
um, there are other ones that are prettier, like the Logitech one's prettier. But the cool thing about this one is it has this little ridge, so your hand's not resting and dragging all over the ground. It sits on top of that, so you're floating. It makes a big. I bought the Logitech one because it looked cooler first, and then
And you created like a post around that or a shared piece
so
of
I
content
did a
around it?
whole post. So I did a whole post where like I had all the different options. I was like, hey, my wrist hurts after all these years from using this garbage mouse, and what should I go with? What have, and you guys had these problems, and just made a whole post, and I had like all the different options, and then the people could comment and talk about like their experiences, and it got so much engagement, and I learned which mouse to get too, and it's the moment I switched mice, you know, like not that that's what you're asking, but it saved my wrist completely. Like it was like an hour later, I like didn't hurt anymore at all, and so that was something like that where like the cool thing about that is like I'm learning something too, you know, and I'm engaging everybody, and a lot of people were linking back and sharing it because they were learning from what other people were posting. So like all the knowledge shared was helpful to
And it
everybody.
wasn't just in your brand bucket of logo and branding, it
No,
was just a different path,
Mhm.
you know,
Totally.
that still
Hey,
aligns with design and the greater good of everything you
yes,
put out into the world. So that's
right.
great. Just an extension of a brand bucket.
Now, here's another thing. You guys we had talked about like things that you can give them that are not tangible. Recently, last week, I made a post that was like, "Here's 9 negative space logos I've done before," and I posted 9 logos that I have posted. Everybody been following me for 10 years have seen each of those logos 5, 6, 10 times, and there was nothing new in the post. But because they were curated together, it was one of you know, like you can like something, but if you put it in the bucket share it to that one. So if you share it to, or basically, if you share it online, or if you bucket it and you put it into like negative space logos are under logo design. Because they're all collected, it saves them having to save 9 different logos. It's all in one place, and it's easy for them to put on a mood board later on. You're saving them time. And so it's an advantage. And so like you can see this one, most of my posts get, if they're pretty successful, they get about 1,000 likes. This one got 2,500 because
I saw somebody reshare this too. Like you literally made it easy for another feature account to share this kind of work. You made it easy for them because at their day, they just want to share dope work that their audience might like. So by you creating and curating your own personal content that is interesting, unique, doing something familiar, logo design in an unfamiliar way, negative space.
Yes.
You are now essentially like putting yourself in a great position to get more exposure because you created extra value for an account. Like that's a way to create value.
Totally. And I've seen other people do this, like these logo accounts, they do it. But now I'm not going to forget the name of the designer. I just had on the tip of my mouth. I think it's Anthem. Oh man, I'm going to lose it. But anyhow, it's a fellow that does, he does badge hunting like me, where he's finding old vintage logos and branding and stuff like that. But the thing he does is he makes those little grid of 9 posts like you're seeing right there on the right. And it'll be like all eagle marks or all, I don't know, marks with stars in it or patriotic marks or whatever. He'll theme them like that. And I was like, that is so helpful for me because I already have like when I save something in Instagram, I have all my buckets set up for making, mood boards and things like that. Or like, let's say, hey, I got to make an eagle logo. I've got a folder in my Instagram with 60 eagles that are all awesome. It's like my favorite eagles I've ever seen. They make it into that folder and boom, it's like, or I'm drawing hands, vector hands, geometric hands are always so tricky. But I've got a folder now with like so many examples where I can be like, okay, I could try a little bit of this one, a little bit of that one. And I like the way they did the balance here, get ideas, get inspired by other things. It's always so helpful. And all designers are doing that. Well, I don't know if all do, but most designers are doing that. So if you can make that process easier.
And I feel like just for someone who's like a lettering or an illustrator, not logo and design, you can make a grid or a flash sheet of all your previous work and have people vote A, B, C, or here's my monthly recap of work all into one. Just another way to repurpose, recycle.
Totally. People like to feel valued. That was another thing for value. So if you're asking my advice, like if you're working on something where you're doing process, obviously you can't do this for any big NDA client, like all your big clients, you're not going to do that for, but every so often you'll get a client that's okay with you sharing something. Or for personal stuff, I'm always making merch. I'm always making little things. And a lot of the times I'll have it narrowed down, like, oh, this, or this, at like A, B, C, or D post. And here's the thing, like the first time I started doing those, I remember there were like a couple people that commented like, why not just do a poll? Why you don't just do a poll? Because a poll, people click on that, there's some success, but by people putting A, B, C, or D, that's all of a sudden 70, 200, 300 comments. Activity. And that makes it jump up into people's feeds and helps with the algorithm. So that's why you do it that way, even though it's more of a pain in the butt to try and organize it. Like you can scan it, usually you can tell, but like sit and count it. Like if I'm going to count them all up, I'm just like, oh gosh, that would be so much easier having a poll.
The epitome of playing the game, leveraging the strengths of a platform, the algorithm, that's great.
And that was never like a lot of these things I fell into. I was like, oh, that worked really well. I should continue doing it. It wasn't like, I wasn't like scheming like, oh man, I'm going to get that algorithm today.
I'm going to get them likes today.
Scam these followers. It's not, I'm not at all like that. I tried to make it something that they actually want to see. Because the cool thing about Instagram is more or less, it's kind of like banner ads that people want to see. Because banner ads, our mind is trained to have the stuff on the side of your screen completely ignored. Doesn't matter how cool it is. Doesn't matter how flashy or animated or best design you ever saw in your life. If you clicked on a banner ad, it was probably by mistake because you're trying to
accident. Yeah.
Yes.
Because my hand was at a weird angle with my magic mouse. Now that I realize, I need that vertical mouse.
It is nice, dude. The vertical mouse, really good. I do like it. Quite a bit. Mine's wired. You can get them wireless though. And in fact, it's probably easier to get most things wireless right now.
Linked up in the cart. There's 3 left. I'm like, okay, I was ready for the next level. So
nice. All right. one of the key things that I think is so important, and the reason why you've seen me consistently is because I've been posting daily and consistent, and not posting 6 times a day. I'm You can probably get by if you have really successful posts to maybe post maybe twice, but like usually you kind of got to ride until the numbers start dropping, and then you could post the next thing, and usually that's about
It's about
24 hours.
24 hours in terms of like
Yeah.
the life of a post.
Yes. And if you overlap them too much, they both suffer.
You find
Unless,
so I'm a big advocate of like you need to exist a minimum of once a week. Minimum, like can't be putting out a quarterly newsletter or
mhm,
every 3 weeks a podcast episode. Like you're not going to remind people you exist, but like daily, that's difficult. Do you find it best to post at a specific time, a specific date, batching your content, using like Facebook or Creator Studio, or like what are your tips for daily posting, repurposing? I call it Frankensteining old work, like how you make like a 9 post of
yeah.
previous made work kind of stuff.
Mhm. All right. So you mentioned Facebook Studio. So you can obviously you have to
Creator
do some
Studio,
research because
right?
they do not make it easy to schedule a
No, it
post.
sucks butt.
You're like 15 clicks in and you're finally to the page
It's
where you
not
can
user
schedule.
friendly. And you
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
even see
First,
like all your analytics as you would like natively in the app.
yeah. Well, I use Facebook for like family stuff, and I know I should probably focus more on the brand on it, and that's all I've ever used it for. And so finally, I was like, yeah, I just this is like this year. I was like, fine, because I looked up how to do the schedule, the post. I'm like, fine, I'll make a Peters Design Company like branded page, and so I did it just so I could schedule a post. And I don't know, for whatever reason, like I have 60,000 followers on Instagram, and I have like nothing on Facebook. There's a
That's
little,
truly
the
like a pay to
engagement, I'll get like
play to get
one or
any
two things.
reach. Yeah.
You do, you got to pay. And I try and I think social media is great because you don't have to pay. So the moment it turns into something where I'm basically making banner ads, I'm like, no, I'll just stick with the other platforms. There's enough of them. I've been getting a lot of play off LinkedIn, Instagram. I've been way into Behance this year. I never, started Behance account like long time ago, around like 2010 or something like that. And then just like didn't touch it for like 6 years, and then finally jumped back into it. And the last couple of years, man, I've been just I put things on there I would never put on my regular site normally, because it's this weird in between Instagram and portfolio site.
Yeah.
Portfolio site, you want to curate like somebody has 20 minutes. Can they nobody's going to spend 20 minutes on your site, but if they were to spend 10 minutes, maybe they're not gonna, unless they're like really interested. Can they get through everything? Or a lot of times I've seen where like people have like a greatest hits link on the first slide of their portfolio that's just like, here's the best work I've made in the last 30 years. And then you
Yeah.
can click through and see full
It's a
projects.
hybrid.
Yeah,
See, and I've
just
been pushing my students. I'm like, okay, Instagram isn't the end all be all. You
yeah.
may not just be like what we're talking about today is great for like my students and listeners,
Mhm.
but at the same time, it's like, yo, there's still plenty of real estate, or your thing may be on your Facebook, your thing may be on Dribble or
Mhm.
Behance. You may find your groove over on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Instagram is just one tool,
Right.
but today that's the main focus. So,
Yeah. I would go back to your question. The
I don't even remember what my question was.
it was well, the first part, there was one part of about
Like 3 questions in one.
it was I remember one of the three, and it was about scheduling posts. Back to actually scheduling the posts. um you can, if you want to post daily, it can be tough, especially if you're running your own company, or if this is a side hustle and you're trying to work full time in another job, and you're like, well, how much time am I going to invest in this? um and so if you can dump, like organize your time. They always say like really successful people, they'll like have all their meetings in one day. They'll organize, they'll truncate things in different parts of their week so they can be more successful. So they're not, because if you have a meeting like meetings, for instance, if you have a meeting every 2 hours throughout your whole week, you're not going to get
Sucks.
anything
Like I
done.
batch, here's my day for all my coaching calls. Here's my day for all my interviews.
Smart.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing. Like if you can get all your posts and push them together, especially if you're doing something that's like you're having a rhythm to it. Like right now I'm doing 36 days of type. I just started doing that.
You're
Um,
insane.
well, I'd say it's not like I'm spending 36 days designing. I'm trying to do it in like 3 days. Just like
Yeah.
get it all done. And then I can have all the posts and then I don't have to worry about social media for like a month. And I'm like, that sounds pretty good. So I don't mind that. So new content is always great. But like you said, the other part of it was like, you know, can you take a new, like, can you take older content and either uh, remix it, you know, like making a 9 post, making, uh, you know, selling in some way. Maybe it's with a tip. Like I recently did these logo posters that just have all my logos on, just big grids of icons. And then I have a badge one where it's just big grids of badges. I made so many logos over the years. When I made those, I was like, well, I got these gridded out anyways. I'll just make 9 posts of in black and white of every single, and just like post them for like weeks on end. And it performed really well, did great. People got to see, I got to repost same things that I've already posted before. But because they were grouped a little bit differently, they were black and white versus full color, you know, it made it easier to save, easier to share. I don't know. It became new content, and then also promoted the posters. So got
It's
people.
like, here's the original, the eye candy. Here is a mock-up. And
Yes,
then here is like maybe even a photo of the posters being stacked, or a photo of it
totally.
living somewhere. Like you could
Yes,
repurpose one post 3 times or
yes.
more. Here's a process shot of me designing. Here's a computer shot of me laying out the artboard. Like
Uh-huh.
so many different things that you can do versus like, here's a pretty 2D post
Yeah,
that lives here, one and done.
right.
And I
Yeah,
think you even mentioned it in your Instagram too. And this is what I mentioned to my students, like, there's nobody who's going to like notice all of your work, like
no.
an insane creeper level status, to be like, oh my God, on March 30th last year, Alan Peters posted that bike frame behind you. And now he posted it again today. Like, I've repurposed, remixed Frankenstein work. I
Mhm.
call it replaying your greatest hits. Like, you're never going to get on Pink
Yep.
Floyd's ass for like playing Brick in the Wall again. Like, you
Oh,
want to see that,
yep. I
you
want
know,
that.
and you have all these new people that aren't going to go all the way to the beginning of your feed. And you have
Yeah.
people who've been following you. Instagram isn't showing your work to all 61,000 people that
No,
you
it's
have
not.
over there. And by the time this goes out, it'll probably be 75,000 with the trajectory you're on. But like, there's
It's
no
all you,
shame in the
Scotty.
game. Like, I
You,
love that you talk about that. God,
dude.
that would make even a killer post on its own.
Yeah.
Talk
So
about it all the time. Why is that not a piece of content from me?
that's great content. Yeah. So getting in there, not being afraid. Like the great one of the reasons I made the merch, and why I started making merch was not like, hey, this is a cash cow. I'm gonna get rich off these hats, man. That's not it at all.
I'm
I'm gonna
fully
tell
investing
you.
my Roth IRA with my hat side game.
I'm going to tell you a little story. So there's a local poster company or a poster design agency that goes by Aesthetic Apparatus here in Minneapolis. They are awesome. Check them out if you don't know Aesthetic Apparatus. They've been doing show posters and gig posters from like when I first started my career. I always looked up to these guys, and their website is the majority of it, at least at the time for a long time, was just gig posters. And I went over there one time I designed a poster and I was looking for new jobs. And I was like, I just stopped over to give them one and just to chat and shoot the shit for a minute. And I was like, how do you do it? Like, how do you stay in business designing posters? Like, what's the secret? Because I'm like, you got a house, you got kids and stuff. And he's like laughs at me. He's like, this isn't what we're doing. He's like, we're doing a lot of big brand projects and stuff like that. But these are the business cards. These are the public relations. You know, this is the stuff that we're sending out that's getting in CA and type annuals and stuff like that people are seeing, and then they're hiring us for like that big advertisement, you know, the billboard for Absolute Vodka or whatever it is, you know. And so that's when I'm designing hats and I'm designing shirts and posters and stuff like that. It is, yeah, I'll make a couple bucks off it, you know, but that's not the reason I'm doing it. The reason I'm doing, yeah. So this is Aesthetic Apparatus.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Look at that. Sorry, go
really,
on.
really cool stuff. These guys are great. I learned a lot
Wow.
about design just from studying their work and looking at
I'll
their
have this in
typography and their layouts.
resources and references for sure. Please continue.
Very,
But like,
these
your
guys
hats
are
aren't
very
to
like,
make you a bunch of cheddar. you know.
When you see these guys work, it is like classic Minnesota. Like it reminds you of CSA, like Charles Spencer Anderson. It reminds you of Old Duffy work. It reminds you of Sharon Warner. All these greats. Like there's just this whole line of just like Wink, where they have this nice like cool '50s aesthetic, but just with a newer twist on it. And so these are the people that, even though like I wasn't sitting in their studio, I consider all those people I just mentioned like my teachers, just studying their work, growing, as I was coming up, and then learning from it. So back to what we were talking about. So yeah, so let's say I'm designing a hat. Obviously this is not just my logo, but like I'm designing another one. I could, like you said, I could do a screenshot of like, hey, I got work in progress, some new thing coming out. Then maybe I have like 4 or 3 that I'm thinking about. Like, what do you think? Which one? 1, 2, 3, or 4? And then they two of them do really well. I'm like, well, I'm gonna make them both into whatever, into merch or hats or whatever. And then I take those and then I mock them up, and I'm like, oh, what do you think of these mock-ups? They're great, but I'd really like to see it on a black hat or a white hat. Ask questions. Do you like it on this navy, or do you like it better on the green hat? The green hat, or
getting
here's
people involved.
Get them involved. Get them. And
people like to feel like they're a part of something.
Totally.
Co-collabors.
And they are. That's the thing. It's like, it's not like you're just tricking them. I get a lot of help from Instagram, from asking questions and asking for advice on things. I really learn where I'm not, instead of just asking like I talk to my buddy Nick Smoz all the time. I message back and forth between him. I'm like, what do you think between these 2 logos? What do you like between this? Like I do the same thing with Instagram, but just with him, with stuff that I can't show Instagram. Because he's got really good taste, but you get a lot better advice from, and no offense, Nick, but not a better advice, but you get it's a focus group of like thousands of people that are all going to look at, and they're like, well, I really like A. And you're going to see quickly like, oh, 60% of the people are feeling strong about this. So anyways, so you got that post up, and then you print them, and then you photograph it. Like, oh, look what I just got in the mail, unboxing video, burp, 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 show the new hats, and
bring them along in your stories too,
yep.
Just like for the scrollers and swipers.
Totally. Then photograph them and share the photos. And like all of a sudden you just got 10 posts or, maybe 15 posts of designing a trucker cap,
It's literally, but that's that intentionality. That's like, again, what I want to teach my students is you're building a campaign right there. You're bringing people along for the ride and giving their input as a focus group. Like, it's brilliant.
Mm-hmm. In terms of sharing that, you can overshare a little bit with, so when I'm designing a logo, the way I set up my contract is that I present 15 icons, and they narrow it to 3, and then we do then I do full like logo, like with the typography and like a whole adaptive system, and then we narrow to 1, and we do 2 rounds of revision. And in the end, the client owns just that 1 logo, and everything else I made and all the process is still my property. So I have all these different pieces and all the different things like that. And let's say I designed 15 logos with the letter S, and I don't always share all those. Sometimes I'll pull one out for a hat here or there or something like that. But I've got an archive of like so much work.
A graveyard.
I have like the ultimate graveyard. But there's a lot of times where I'm just like, I'm designing for a client. I'm like, oh, I just remember that robot head I designed for this other client. And that's a sweet robot head that didn't get purchased because not a lot of people want a robot head for a logo. I'm gonna grab that because this person wants a robot head or whatever. That was like a really weird example, but but I always have a lot of stuff, like that I'm saved, and don't always feel like you need to share everything in every part of a process, especially with client work. If you got something really good that like a lot of people, they'll be like, hey, this didn't make it, so I'm just gonna share it here on Instagram as one last farewell as it floats off into infinity. Like, see those posts a lot?
Yeah.
I try not to do that. Like if I have something, if I'm putting it out there, it's usually because I'm going to put it on a piece of merch or I'm going to do something with it. I'm not going to just like throw away into the wood chipper a bunch of logo concepts, because I might need that later on. That might be like the perfect logo for somebody that I have that I'm going to work with in the future. Or it might be there's a couple of hats that I have where like they're just like logos that didn't make it for somebody for whatever reason, maybe strategically or whatever, but they're really nice marks and they make great hats or a great t-shirt later on or something like that. Yeah. Focus your posts on your business. And so that's another thing I made. When I first started doing this, I would make posts about like, hey, I'm just like hanging out in my yard with my family and stuff like that, where
Here's
it's
the
like, that's
bagel I
not,
ate today.
yeah, here's this whatever, just, it wasn't really, and it would be mixed with work and stuff like that. And I found that, like, I'll mix that in stories, but never on my feed anymore. Usually my feed is just like, if somebody clicks on my link, it is a portfolio site. People can like scan, 9 posts and be like, okay, I'm gonna hire this guy, or I'm not gonna hire this
And I
guy.
still see you share your face though. You still show the human behind it. You show like
Yes.
you still show like the little quirks behind you, like your badge hunting.
Mhm.
Um, like you show your face in one of like the posts down here. You show like office space. You show
Yeah.
yourself in IGTV. It's not just, hey, I'm gonna hide behind a logo.
Right.
Because we live in an age where people want that human connection with stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, this is your portfolio page. And I
Yeah.
don't want people to get it twisted like, hey, this is only my work.
Yeah. And speaking of that, if you're going to do videos and stuff like that, think about lighting. Lighting is important. You don't have to spend a lot on some lights. I'm sure you've got way better lighting and audio setups than I've got, but
I
I
got
still
a
got.
dope ass mic, but dude, I got the cheapest little ring light over here and a ring light. I'd rather invest in my Herman Miller chair and
Nice.
my monitor and my mic setup, So
Yeah. I've got a Blue Yeti, which is like,
that was what I started with.
yeah,
I used that
120
thing for
bucks or
3.5
something.
years.
Yep. I- This day and age, you're gonna be doing so many video calls and stuff anyways. You can buy these things at Target. They
Yeah.
cost like $100 or $120 or something. Get
Small
something like
little
that.
investments just to like boost your
Yeah.
presentation or
Yeah.
um your presence for sure.
Yeah. So good lighting, have a mic. I should probably do some soundproofing in my office because I don't, and it has a little bit of echo. If you have a sound machine, like I have a air filter, I always make sure I turn it off before I'm doing any
Oh man, you
recording.
sound sexy right now. You're good.
Thanks, man. Um, what else? Oh, and then think about the background. Like, does it say, what is it saying about you? Like, do you have like I've got my neon sign I use for all my IGTV videos.
Killer.
How are you dressed? Think about that, because especially if you got a lot of people looking at this video, man. Like, I think about that. Granted, I know 60,000 people aren't going to watch one of my videos, but it's still like 4,000 sometimes. And
I
I'm
always
like,
rock the homie stuff on
yeah,
on
well,
my camera, so that's why I need something from you too, so I can rock. I just like go in the rotation of all my friends on there. So
that's awesome. I usually do mix, like my normal clothes. I don't wear, like, I didn't wake up and was like, let's put on a uniform
I'm
this
going
morning, Peter's Design
Co
Company.
out in the world today.
Boom. No. I always think of that, Wayne's World, where Garth has like the full on Reebok outfit. And he's like, I think it's really lame when people are just supporting, some brand. And then here I have like sitting in front of my sign with all my like logos all over the place.
I would expect nothing less from you to be repping your stuff on an episode about you.
Well, that's what I figure. I figure there's a lot of people that are listening to this that have no idea who I am. There's a lot of people out there, and we live in a big world. And so I figured, hey, let's get that branding cooking. This is something I designed you can buy in the shop. But the next thing on the list was promote your friends and partners. You just mentioned that. If you can make a poster, you're like, hey, like maybe it's just a 9 posters, like here's 9 awesome people that I love, that I'm inspired by. And maybe it's people in your field, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's like, I don't do illustrate. Well, I do some illustration, but like heavy illustration, or like I do some lettering, but I'm not like a lettering artist. Like do a post on like lettering. You can show other people's work. You can post, tag them. Like, it's like anything else. Like just like it says in the Bible, it's like if you're loving on other people, you're gonna get a lot of love back. That's just gonna happen naturally, and that's gonna help. You're sharing other people's things.
Just builds the community more. Like everything we
does.
do is all about how can we grow this creative community.
Yeah,
Make a seat for everyone at the table here.
I remember reading something. There was somebody on Twitter that was complaining about this group of designers from another country that had a Facebook group where they were posting on Dribbble, and it was like a whole cluster of them where they would comment on each other's things and share each other's things. And this person was really upset about it. And I'm like, well, that's smart. I should be doing that. I was like, where's my 9 people? Like, that's a really good way to cheat an algorithm, whether it's in Dribbble or anything else. Is like
way to play the game.
Yeah, well, not cheat though, but just if you did set up where it's like, hey, I'm gonna share everything you do, and you're gonna share everything I do, and boom, like 9 people doing that, man, you everybody's numbers would grow like crazy.
Yeah.
It would be huge. So just something, just when I heard that, I was like, I have no problem with that. I'm like, that's smart. Those guys are,
You're giving
those
me
guys
some
know what
great
they're doing.
ideas. I'm like, I know these things, but why haven't I capitalized on them?
Yeah. Reintroduce yourself every couple of months. That those posts always do well. People, just to show your face. Hey, here's what I look like. And then show like your elevator pitch. Like here's 8 projects. Do a little 9 posts where you're like gridding them up or something like that. Or just like whatever your greatest hits are. Like, here's who I am. Here's what I do. Here's my best work. And I would love to work with you. Maybe a paragraph or 2. People don't read online. You know that. I know that. Keep the words to a minimum, and just
Line
kind of,
breaks, one complete thought per sentence, use bullet points, use listicles. Like,
yes,
copywriting is going to be your best friend in a world of lazy scanners.
exactly. You know this stuff. I
Yeah.
learned a lot of stuff from listening to you, man. You mentioned you were talking about your students. You're talking about Behance and LinkedIn. Cross promote through these things. Like, hey, I just reached 50,000 followers on Instagram, and you made a dribble post about it, and you posted on LinkedIn, and they're like, ooh, and they go check that out, and then you post a project on Instagram, it performs super well, and so you put it over on Behance, and then all of a sudden on Behance it gets featured, and they're like, oh, look, back on Instagram, here's that project, it got featured on Behance. And it's the same
synergy
damn
one.
project, but like just you got put a little tag on the top.
It's brilliant.
It's just people want to celebrate their friends, they encourage each other. Do you love when somebody has something good happen to them? Man, it's just, you want to go up and give them a hug, and online, that just, clicking a like or whatever like that. So, share that stuff. Yeah. Am I going to, did you want to rapid fire? Are we doing this rapid fire thing?
Man, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
I got to that specific thing.
No, any other tips you want to add?
Getting featured on Instagram blogs is a big deal. So like those logo blogs, whether it's illustration blogs, whatever, where those people, they're not posting their own work, they're posting other people's work. Some of them you have to watch out, because you have to watch how they do it, because sometimes they'll be like, follow me, follow me, follow me, follow me, follow me, bunch of hashtags, and at the end it's like, this was made by
credits.
Allan Peters.
Yeah. I don't like that.
No, and those people never have a lot of followers. And then the other thing is, because I can see it. So like if I get featured by Logo Inspirations, that dude has 1.2, Jonathan, he has 1.2 million followers, and I know that it's going to be I'll end up getting between 200 to 400 more followers in the next day based on that. It's going to be a lot. And because he has legit followers, the other thing you need to watch is you can see like, oh, this person has 300,000 followers. And then they post your thing and it's like, I got 2 new followers. And either people aren't being engaged or they're buying followers.
It's fake inflated audiences. Gross.
Yeah. So you gotta, but if you find the right people that are posting good stuff and being parts of those community, whether it's like I'm doing that 36 days of type, that's a cool community, and people are sharing each other's work and stuff like that. That's a cool thing people are doing online. There's another one, I think it's called Logo Archive, and I don't know if you're familiar with Logo Archive. It's just at Logo Archive, and they have Logo Archives for France, for the United States, for Portugal, for all these.
All of those.
Yep. So I follow all of those because they're all vintage logos, and I love that kind of stuff. But they also have one that's like a modern one. You could share your stuff there, and just sharing that work and stuff like that. That's always a good thing. But anyways, if you have something put together like that 9 posts with a negative space, I didn't just, I wasn't like, gosh, I hope Jonathan posts this. I sent it to Jonathan and I hashtagged, and I was like, dude, it'd be awesome if you post this. And he did. And he posted it, like you said, because it's like, oh, look, he did my work for me. All these things are put together, they're organized, and I don't have to do anything other than repost this. Great. Makes my life easier. And then he get back to doing things he'd rather be doing.
and people need to think about it. It's like, don't be like, hey, feature me. Always position like, how can you bring someone value?
Right.
It should never be like, I hate when I get hit up with cold leads all the time. I want to be on your podcast. I can't wait to be on your podcast. I'm like, you don't even speak towards, the audience, the essence, the ethos of this show, nor do you speak toward the value you provide. And you just cold hit me up. I'm like you did the work for him to create a killer piece of content. that you know
Right.
his audience would vibe to.
And it's the same thing with like writing. Like if somebody's a journalist out there and they're not working specifically for a publication, and they'll write a story in advance, but like here's a story that'd be perfect for your your news source or whatever, and they send it out to a couple of news sources and see if somebody will pick it up, and then basically it's done. They're like, oh, this is perfect, and it's written in our style and everything, and boom, here's some money and we'll post it. Same general idea. It's like you're trying to get them set up so that it's less work for them and they're not having to handhold or do anything or do any work on their end.
Quick rapid fire, very, very brief, but if you were on death row, what would your last slice of pizza be? I always gotta ask someone this one.
I love pepperoni, pineapple, and green olive mixed
Anywhere
together.
specific?
A specific. We always make all ours at home, dude. I've got I have to go gluten free, and nobody makes good gluten free pizza that I've ever had. It's all right, but so we make pizza once a week. I make it homemade. We'll do all sorts of different types of crust, and we've experimented a lot. Yuca crust. I don't know if you've ever done that before. That's crazy good.
You don't live too far away. I will have to make a trip up sometime to try this pizza. So
yeah, well,
probably less than 3 hours probably for me.
Well, you're in Iowa, right?
Yep, Iowa. So 3 hours is Minneapolis for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not too far. All of Maria's relatives all live right along the Iowa border. Both
is Aiken like right on the border?
Right on the border of Minneapolis?
No, of like Iowa.
Oh no!
How far up is it?
No. Egan's just a suburb of the Twin Cities. It's an immediate suburb.
Oh, so it's right in there. So like I have my family at Deneen Pottery. I'll go and visit, and I can who's in Duluth area. So okay.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Wow, okay,
so
literally right there.
Yeah, like I said, when I worked at Target downtown Minneapolis, it was a 45-minute bus commute.
Okay.
And that was like in the middle of the winter with like cars on the road and stuff like that.
Let's do one more. Where can people go to follow you online and support you, and then just kick it with me for like a couple minutes afterwards?
Yeah. You can find me at allanpeters.com or petersdesigncompany.com. All my social feeds are at Allan Peters, and Allan is spelled Allan. It has just a weird spelling of Allan. It's like one of the most uncommon, so you probably get it wrong.
Double A's.
Don't worry,
and I'll have it linked up in all the show notes.
All right. Twitter, Instagram's all at Allan Peters. I got them all. And dude, we recently bought mariapeters.com, and it was like $3,000. It was like, it was hard. Maria's like, I really want it. I'm like, all right.
It's like $5,000 for me to get perspectivecollective.com. I'm like,
it's good though. It's good though to have it.
No, I'm in a point where I could get it. It's just the facts. I'm like, that could be invested. All right. Well, man, I really appreciate this. This was great. The energy. I'm not used to like someone always like bringing that energy back to me. I was vibing off this one. If you're down for a round two, we will certainly make a round two. I want to get like an Instagram live session or just something going to vibe off this. I don't want this to just end so abruptly. So thank you so much for your time. Let's stay in touch, and I'll plan the next attack for us. Okay.
Okay. Right on.
All right. Peace.
One last thing.
Yeah.
It's probably too late. Check out my shop, allanpeters.com or in petersdesigncompany.com/shop. If you go to my site, you can just go to the shop. There's like, I think about 100 products on there now.
Yeah,
lots of fun stuff. Hats, merch, all sorts of things, posters, prints, all the things I've made over the years.
As well.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you. We'll be in touch, and I'll chat with you shortly.
Thanks, dude.
Later, brother. Thanks again for listening. It'd be awesome if you took the time to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and let the comment below so we can connect. Again, if you want to catch a shout out as a future listener of the week, make sure you subscribe to the show on iTunes and give it a rating and review.